what's wrong with the smaller displacement bikes? So here's my answer. There's nothing wrong with the smaller displacement bikes. If they can keep up on the highway, there's absolutely nothing wrong with them. Right there, over my left shoulder. Maybe it's one of those geysers. Yellowstone's got a geyser. Maybe we got a geyser. Choosing a bike that's too slow for the situation, in my opinion, is just as dangerous as picking a bike that's way too fast for you. Ride's a ride. A ride is a ride, that is true. When I started riding, I was on a CMX 250 Rebel with a bad clutch. Didn't like to shift. It was not a particularly good bike. I had people tell me start on a smaller displacement bike to gain your confidence. There is some truth to that. That will gain you confidence if you're just buzzing around your neighborhood and you're going on to smaller highways and things of that nature. But when you go to get on like the interstate and you go on highways that are a little bit faster, you're going to find it actually has the opposite effect. So I want to talk a little bit today about, slow bikes, low displacement bikes in the wrong situation. You might think, oh, I'm a new rider, so I bought this 300. Okay, good. You get good on the 300, then you get on the highway. All right, so when you get on the highway with your 300, what happens? You finally got the nerve up. You got on the highway. You're on a 300cc motorcycle. And you're in the right lane. And if you try to do anything else, you don't have the horsepower to back up any maneuvers you might need to do. People ask me why I like big displacement bikes. I like to have options when I'm having to cut around somebody. I'm in my lane and somebody comes along on the right side, comes up on you, and on your left you got something coming up. Sometimes you just need to get out of there. So you need something with a higher displacement, a little more horsepower, a little more torque. That's why I like the 1800. That's why I like this Ninja ZX14. It's almost 200 horsepower. Sometimes you just need to get out of Dodge. Sometimes when you're on the highway you need options, and sometimes you have to make those options happen yourself. And the only way to make those options happen yourself is to have the horsepower. No horsepower, no options. Not really. As much as I really liked my Honda Shadow 750, and I put 12,000 miles on that bike the first year I had it many years ago. But the 60 to 80 range, it's really not there. It's a great bike. I loved it. I did love it. Don't get me wrong. But those smaller displacement motors, a 750cc cruiser, in the upper range doesn't give you a whole lot. So you're going to start on something like that and you'll love it. You're going to think it's great. And then you're going to get on the highway a lot, and you're going to be riding longer distances, and you're going to be going, whoa, this is work. Why am I always playing defense? Well, you're always playing defense because you don't have the horsepower and the throttle to go on offense once in a while. I'm not a speed demon. I'm not doing 100 miles an hour and stuff, okay? I'm really not. But you do have to ride assertively on the interstate, especially in rush hour. You have to pick your battles, and you have to figure out your gaps, and you have to watch your blind spots and watch whose blind spot you're in and all that stuff. And it's a lot easier to maintain your business when you have a bigger displacement bike. So with the lower displacement bikes, you're sort of stuck in a more defensive riding style if you're on the highway. You don't have as much capacity to be more assertive, which sometimes the situation calls for that. You find yourself having to make a more passive answer. And passive is not always the answer. I'm not knocking small displacement bikes. I think they're a great way to learn, but I think once you get the learning down, you need to get something that's got a little speed, whether it be a heavier cruiser like a 1300, a VTX 1300, VTX 1800, that's a good bike, Thunderbird 1600. Those are all bikes I've had, they're great. I had a V-Strom 650, it was awesome. The upper range was great. My VFR 1200 is awesome, 140 horses, no issues. Now, I've had an arsenal of motorcycles. You know, I've had 13, and I've test ridden tons of bikes in between. Getting on the highway with a ZX14. Effortless. Effortless torque, effortless everything. That being said, if you're a brand new rider, don't buy a ZX14. It's not a good beginner bike. There's a huge difference, you know, when you have a bike that deals with the speeds of 60 to 85 with ease. I mean, this is one of those bikes that it doesn't matter what gear you're in, you're just gonna love it, but second gear will get you to 70 on this thing. Something more mid-range is good, like a Ninja 650, something like that. Something that the throttle won't really get you into a whole lot of trouble if you mess it up. But at the same time, it's got plenty of horsepower. You know, if you gear down to fourth and have to hammer it on the highway, you have the ability to do that to get out of trouble. You don't want to go to a gunfight with an airsoft gun. You know what I mean? And sometimes on the highway, during rush hour, it's very much a gunfight. Sometimes, and you need to have both options. But you need to play defense, but you also need to play offense. If it's a high compression motor, 650's good horsepower. If it's a cruiser, I recommend at least an 1100 if you're going to be hitting the highway and the interstate for long. I know a lot of people like the 900 Vulcan. That's actually a pretty good bike too. Just give yourself some horsepower because you're going to need it. So I hope I answered some questions. TG MotoRider signing off.